Good morning. Let's see if all this works. I'm getting rusty at this, so one moment. It is always a production. Okay, looks like we have audio and we do have video. So, good morning. Raise a glass to episode 50 of this bumbling series called I Need Coffee, where Steve shares stuff about Business Central. Cheers. It is hard to believe that it has been 50 episodes of this. And I'm sure if I go back and look at episode 1 and 2, it would be scary production. But I've made it this far somehow. And today, I would like to talk about two things that I thought would be really simple, and apparently they aren't. One is customer email addresses in Business Central. You're thinking, how hard can that be? Come on, it's like one field email, right? And then application insights. In my case, it's application insight errors. And again, application insights, super simple, right? Like you just turn it on in Azure, you put in your key, and it just works. So I thought, yeah, we'll see. So with that, let me get oriented here. Oh, I'm on the wrong, somehow I'm at the end. Okay, so back at the beginning, here we are. Email addresses. Like, I thought this was just a total no-brainer. We have I'm just dealing with customers just to keep the scope small. Customer email addresses, right? Super simple. You pull up a customer, you have an email field. Great. So that's the email of the customer. And if I want to send something, that's where it goes. No, that is not the case. So I was just interested, okay, what if I want to email an invoice to a customer? I'll enter the invoice, I will post it, and I'll click send, and the invoice sends to Robert at AData. Aha. Not necessarily, for several reasons. So let's take a look at what can actually happen. So let me prep Studio 4 here. Okay, so here I have my Business Central Docker container, and effectively the same as SaaS. So I'm going into sales, customers, and I'm going to look at a datum. So I'll drill into a datum, and you will see that there's general, great, and if I scroll down to address and contact, I have Robert Towns at contoso.com. So I intentionally left it just the plain Contoso, Cronus, Fabricam, whatever you want to call it, the standard demo database. So I've got Robert Towns at contoso.com. Okay, cool. So that means that Robert's going to get sales documents, I assumed. And there's a couple layers of this. I know you Business Central and Nav folks are yelling at the screen right now saying, no, Steve, it's not like that. Yep, this is my journey. So I'm going to do a new sales quote. It could be an order, it could be an invoice. And I'm going to create a new sales quote for my buddy Robert, or whatever his name was, at A Datum Corporation. Cool, right? Wait, I thought the email address was Robert at Contoso. This says A Datum Corporation at Contoso. What's going on? You see, the contact is Robert Towns. Why is this email address on my quote different than what is set up for this customer? Okay, so I was poking around and I said, okay, let's back up here. Let's go back to sales, customers, and let's look at A Datum, see what's going on. And yes, Robert Towns is definitely the address and contact email for A Datum. So then I strolled down and said, oh, there's this thing called copy cell to address to quote from. Do you want it from the company or the person? And I'm assuming that's the contact type. Because if we go in here and we look at contact, we can pull up the contact for this customer. And you notice we have A Datum Corporation and then we have Robert Towns. If I click on CT1, you'll notice that, aha, there is my A Datum Corporation email address. Okay, if I click on Robert, there is Robert Towns at Contoso. So, okay, I kind of get that. So in this case, I have A Datum Corporation set to copy the cell to address to the quote from the company. Now, what is interesting is that's only for the quote, apparently. I'll have to test and see if it works the same for orders and invoices, but okay. So I can kind of buy that. Now, what if I change this to person? Let's see. Let's just verify. Sales quotes. I'm going to delete this old A Datum so I don't get confused. And I'm going to do a new sales quote. So I'm going to type in A Datum. Great. A Datum Corporation. Let's see what email address appears. Wait. A Datum Corporation at contoso.com. But I said that I wanted to copy the address from the contact or the person, not the company. So I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why it's doing this, but it gets better. And this appears to be a quirk of the test data. Based on my limited testing, it looks like it's an oddity of the test data as far as I could tell. So I'm going to delete this quote. I'm going to go back to my customer and I'm going to go into A Datum. Now, you notice that Robert Towns is here, even though this is the company email. Okay, I have contact Robert Towns here, but no contact code. And it didn't matter whether I chose company or person here. It always seemed to pull the company email address from the company contact, not the Robert person contact. Okay, so what I did is I went in here and said, well, since it seems to be pulling from the company contact, let's see what's going on here. So I'm going to go into contact. And if I click on the company contact, trying to figure out how to best show this. So let's say I don't want to have a Datum Corporation. I want to have robert@adatum.com. Okay. Now I'm going to exit this contact card, the company contact card, and watch what happens. Let's just go back into the customer, a Datum Corporation. It changed the company email. Now before we had Robert here, even though apparently this email address is correlated to the company contact. So we had one email address here, a separate email in the company contact. Quotes were going to the company contact. So it's like somehow this imported record has incorrect data. It's not linked to the properly linked to the company contact. Now watch this. What if I paste this back in the customer card, right? So now I'm going to go to contact and I go back to ADatum. Look at that. Updating the customer email field updated this company contact record. Okay, so just to make sure I'm not losing my mind, we've got roberttowns@contoso.com. Now, what I don't understand is if I go into ADatum and I choose the contact to be Robert Towns, I'm going to do this. It does fill in this, but it keeps this here. Even if I choose person, that's the cell to address. Yeah. So it's not as obvious or as simple as I would have thought. It's kind of this weird association between the customer record, like that email field, and the company contact email field. They're kind of connected. If you update one, it updates the other and vice versa. But I'm not seeing the explicit connection. So now let me just try one more time. If I do a new sales quote and ADatum, what are we going to see? Where is it? Did I miss it? Email. This is a sales quote. Email. Oh, there it is. Okay, so now, interestingly, we have a sales quote. I chose ADatum, and it did pull robert.towns@contoso.com. So let's just try this one more time to see if this actually works. I'm going to go back to my customer, go back to ADatum. I'm going to change this setting from person to company, exit, sales, quote, new, ADatum. What are we going to see? Even though I switched it back to company, we're seeing Robert Towns. Okay, so now let's just see if it's pulling from a contact, or the contact that's assigned to that customer. So now instead of this contact code, I'm going to change this to a Datum Corporation contact code. What's interesting is there's no contact name here. And this is company. It's not person. Exit. Sales. Quotes. Get rid of this one. Yep. New sales quote. ADatum. ADatum.corporation. So I'm not sure. It seems that it's coming from the contact if the contact assignment is set up properly in the customer. And the out-of-the-box Contoso Cronus data, it does not look like that contact association is properly set up, because we saw that in a datum, even though Robert was listed as a contact name, there was no contact code here. And so I'm going to switch back to Robert. I'm going to leave company here as the copy cell to address. That kind of doesn't look like it's doing it. This is a datum corporation. And now I'm going to do a new sales quote for a datum. And Robert. So it does look like this for the quote is coming from the contact on the customer, not necessarily from, let me go back, not necessarily from the customer email. So if you're testing with this test company data, it can get very confusing because it's like, wait, what's going on? So I'm just going to put a different email address here just to prove Robert at a datum. Okay. And this will be a final test, sales, quotes. Let's delete this. Yep. And new a datum and Robert.towns. So it does appear to be coming from the contact. If you're doing basic tests with the out-of-the-box customers, you will get very, very strange behaviors with the email address. And that appears to be because, primarily, as far as I can tell, appears to be because of this contact not being properly associated. There's a name, but is just typed in. It isn't actually the contact code associated with that customer. Now, if I delete this, let's see what happens here. Let's see if it pulls from Robert at a datum or if it pulls from the company contact record. Sales, quotes, and new, a datum. If there is no contact, it does pull from the customer email. Okay, cool. So we have a couple hierarchies here. And there's another layer to this, believe it or not. So if we go back here, let's just delete this. Okay, so there's a few ways that BC is getting the email. If we go in here, step one is, if there is no contact, it will use this email, just the plain customer email address. However, if there is a contact code properly associated with this customer, it will use that contact's email address. It appears. So if I say Robert Townsend, I think that was his name. Now, interestingly, it pulled that up. But what if I say, oh, look at that. It won't let me edit it. Okay, Steve Endo. Wow. Okay, strange. So if there is a contact properly associated there, it will use that email address. And it appears that I was incorrect. I thought this might have played a role. Doesn't seem to be the case. Company or person does not seem to affect the email address based on this set of testing. Now, just to go back and show the issue appears to be this, that this email address is here, but Helen Ray is typed in here. It is not actually associated as a contact. So you'll get really strange behavior if you're expecting certain things to occur. Okay, so you figured it out, right? No, not so fast. There is one more layer to this fun puzzle. So I thought that, great, I've got this email address here. I have since learned that, okay, I can have a contact here that can override this. But there is one more layer. What if I go to, well, I'll just show you. I was gonna kind of demonstrate the behavior, but I don't want to deal with the surprise. So let's go to actions. And where is it? I can never remember. Customer? Navigate. Navigate. Customer, navigate, document layouts. So in here, I can specify a separate email address or email addresses that will override based on the document type I'm creating. And this is only for, as far as I could tell, this is only for sending the actual document. So this is another layer of potential confusion. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to choose the quote report ID, and I don't know what the numbers are, so I just type quote. I have to search for it, sales quote 204. I'm going to send to Tim at adatum.com. Okay, so sales quotes go to Tim. Great. I have got Robert here. I don't have a contact associated, but I'm going to create a sales quote, and I know that sales quotes go to Tim. So watch this. I'm going to go to sales quotes. I'm going to do a new quote for a datum. And I said that sales quotes should go to Tim. So when I scroll down, what do I see? I see Robert. Wait a minute. I said send sales quotes to Tim. And the key word there, I think, is send. This is just an email associated with the customer that gets copied over to the quote. So even though I see Robert here, if I go to print send and I click on send by email, Tim shows up as the recipient here for the email. So opportunities for confusion. So how should you set this up? Like if sales quotes are going to Tim, what should you put on the customer as the email address? Should you have a general contact address for the email address or for the customer? Because that's what gets copied onto a quote. But when you go to send the quote goes to a different place or a different person. Now, I don't think Dynamics GP had this many options for email. So coming from the Dynamics GP world, it's like, okay, great. We have this whole new universe of email addresses, but there's some potential confusion around what happens here. So now I can have those sent to Tim, and I can go back to my customer and I can say, well, that's really cool. I want to get fancy. I'm going to go into navigate, document layouts, and you can have multiple email addresses here. And thanks to my friend Tanya, she explained those should be semicolon delimited, I believe. So I'm going to send those to Tim and Sally at adatum.com. That's where quotes go. Okay. Now I'm going to go in here and say, well, orders. Don't I have orders? Confirmation order. Let's do that. Okay. Select from full list, search, order, and order confirmation. And that goes to Patty at adatum.com. Okay. And then let's say that invoices, you can see where this is going, hopefully. Sales invoice goes to Bob. Okay. So now I've set up those document templates. I'm now going to do a new sales order. Let's see if this works. I haven't tested this. And this is going to go to adatum. If I can get that to search, adatum. Great. And we are going to have an order for a lamp, the finest Amsterdam lamp, quantity 1. Great. So now, what if I want to send this order? Great. Email confirmation. That's going to Patty. Cool. That's cool, but you just got to know that that's configured, right? And then I've got that sales order. Well, let's go into sales, posted sales invoices. Let's try this. So these are invoices that are already posted. Now, if I find one for a datum, oh, stop it. A datum, this is already posted, and you notice this posted sales invoice has Robert at a datum, which is interesting because I only recently added that in. So this is a posted sales invoice. I'm going to send. Let's do email. Not sure what difference in send and emails. This is going to Bob. So we have a posted sales invoice with Robert's email, different Robert, and this is going to Bob when I send it. So, and the other thing that started this was that when I looked at a posted sales invoice, this says Robert at a datum.com. That is interesting. Let's go into Trey Research just as a test. So this says trey.research@contoso.com. Okay. I thought this email address was stored with the invoice. So if I press Control F1, I get my page inspection, scoot this over, and I'm going to search for email. And look at that. Sell to email says Helen Ray. That is apparently in the sales invoice header table. But this email says Trey Research. Let's try mail. So I'm a little confused. Yeah. I didn't realize this. I thought this was stored and was displaying here. Look at that. Trey Research, Contoso.com, Helen Ray, Contoso.com. So there is clearly a bunch of stuff going on behind the scenes here, and I thought it would be simple. It is not simple. So anyway, lots of stuff going on. So I think I need to look into this more, and I think the lesson is be careful with email addresses. You cannot assume that when I go in here to customers and I open up Trey Research, I cannot assume that this is the email address for documents that are sent to the customer. And this is not necessarily the address that will will be saved with or associated to sales documents for that customer. And it seems like there are some issues with the test data here, the demo data, that cause weird behaviors. And yeah, so further research required. I thought this would be super simple, and I thought I'd figured it out. But this morning, while researching this just to prepare, it got really confusing. Okay, enough about that. So what did we sort of maybe learn here? There's lots of email addresses in Business Central, more than I would have imagined. And we have customer address and contact email. That's kind of the main email field we see on the customer. Well, that's not necessarily meaningful. I honestly don't know exactly when that is used. It looks like that is used when there is no contact associated with the customer, and that may or may not be, it may be copied to a document like a sales quote, but it may or may not be used for the actual delivery of those documents via email in Business Central. Okay, and then I thought that the copy address to quote from might play a role. Based on my test just now, it doesn't look like that affects email. So it's just the email field or the contact that's associated with that customer. Then if you modify the email field on a customer under address and contact, that appears to modify the company contact associated with that customer, which is not necessarily obvious. And lastly, we have document layouts where you can specify one or more email addresses per document layout, and have those documents delivered to different people depending on the document type. So a lot going on there. And the last lesson is the demo data is kind of sketchy with the demo customers. So you'll probably want to make sure that either those customers are set up properly with or without a contact that you specify, or you just create a new one to ensure that you have clean, proper working data. Okay, so what do we have next? Application insights. Now, I assumed this would be simple. I watched the tweets from Kenny, watched some of the videos, I read the documentation. I attempted to set this up months ago, but didn't get far with it at the time. So I decided to look into it again. And there are a couple pages, there are several videos, there's a GitHub repository, lots of resources on, in theory, how to set up Application Insights and Business Central. And if you read the documentation, it makes it look like you do two very simple things. Enable Application Insights in Azure. You just say, create an Application Insights instance. No problem. It's like 3 clicks. It's super simple. Then you get your Application Insights key, or whatever it's called. What is it called? It's called the instrumentation key. And then you copy it into the BC Admin Center for your BC environment. Great. So how hard can that be? So let's take a look at Studio 4. So here I have a sample App Insights instance, whatever you call it. And great, I created this. I'm using the same Azure Active Directory login or tenant, whatever, as my Business Central sandbox. And I created this, and here's my instrumentation key. I copied this, I went into my BC Admin Center, and I pasted it in here. You basically go in here, you paste it in, and it just says, hey, you only want to do this after hours because as soon as you save this, your Business Central tenant or environment is going to restart. Fine. It did restart. It kind of kicked me out. I had it open on purpose just to see. It kicked me out. So I should be set up, right? So I can go into my Business Central homepage. And let me just hide my top secret information here. And let me log in behind the scenes. One moment. And if I can find my passwords. Okay. So here we are, and it's logging in. So great. Now, I don't yet know exactly what gets logged. I've never seen the contents of App Insights personally. I've seen the demos and it shows pretty pictures, but so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go view my customers, right? I'm going to run some, can I run some reports here? Finance. Let's do a purchase analysis report. I don't have one. Let's do a GL budget. I don't have one. Oh. So this is the problem with demo data. And I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just pulling up some windows. So let's see what happens here. And great. So I've clicked around. I'm assuming something happened. And I've read that it should log your logins. So now let's go over to my BC App Insights. So here, I'm going to go back to my main overview, BC App Insights. Actually, yeah, let me just start with overview. So as far as I can tell from the instructions, I should be able to click on logs. And this is where you can perform a KQL query. Now what it does here is it displays this window, which I think is supposed to show you a list of your recent queries. See what's happening? It just sits here. And I'm like, okay, I don't have any queries yet. What's going on? So let me just grab a query. And if I go over here, environment, where is it? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take a copy of the sample query. Let me just pull that up over here so we see it. Okay, so on this page, monitoring and analyzing telemetry, I'm going to scroll down and it says, great, enable application insights. Okay, and I followed those instructions, I think. I'll double check, I'll triple check. Then in the Azure portal, open your application insights resource. In the monitoring menu, select logs. Okay, so I'm going to go to my application. In my monitoring menu on the left, I'm going to click on logs. Okay, so let me just click on logs. You saw the queries, it doesn't load. I have to close it, and here's a query. Great. So now I'm going to run this new query that they give. It is going to query the traces in the logs. Top 100, sort by timestamp. Get the last 100 traces. Okay, super simple, right? Paste this in. I'm going to click run. Now, you see a little clock here right above my head. 5 seconds, 8 seconds. What's going on here? We have experienced a connection issue while retrieving data. This is usually an indication that the network is down or a firewall or browser extension such as an ad blocker is mistakenly preventing access. Now, I do have a firewall. I have browser extensions, but I've tried this with multiple browsers and I'm going to whitelist these just in case. Let me refresh. And I've even connected to a VPN service to get outside my network, and the results are still the same. So I'm going to click on run. After 10 seconds, this times out. Now, I don't know if this is because I have no data yet. I would think it would just say no records, no data, but it's an error. And it's talking about connection issue, preventing access. It's like there's some problem going on. And it takes 10 seconds for this to occur. It's not like it's hitting a database, getting 0 results, and returning an error. And presumably that would be quicker. So then another interesting thing, I'm going to click on save, and we'll see if it behaves here. This is test query 1. So I'm going to save this query, click on save. Oh, it actually saved that time before I got errors. So now let me go back to my logs, monitoring logs. And you notice even though I have a saved query, this just spins. It's like, I don't know what's going on. And so as far as I could tell, I can't open an queries. Yeah, so if I click on queries, I can't pull up an existing query. So I'm assuming this isn't, I don't even think this has anything to do with Business Central. This is just App Insights. I'm trying to get very, very basic operation to work. And it's doing nothing. Query Explorer. Oh, look at that. My queries. And see this spinning here? Like, there it goes. It takes like 5 seconds. Okay, so it actually pulled up the query this time. That's interesting. It's just super, super slow. Okay, let's try this. Look at this. Favorites, page views. Oh, okay. That's traces. Interesting. So there's traces. Oh, these are the objects I can query. Got it. So let's try page views. Page views. Let's see if that works. So what am I doing wrong here? Like, did I not turn something on in Application Insights? I don't know. Let's double check. So enable sending telemetry. Okay, let's just look at Application Insights. See if I am missing some. Enabling Application Insights. Sign into Azure Portal. Create an Application Insights resource. Workspace-based Application Insights resource. Okay. Okay, I did that. Workspace-based. I gave it a name. Review and create. Okay, so if I go back here, I should see workspace, default workspace. Okay, I think I did it right. Copy the connection string. Well, I don't think we need to do that because Business Central allows us to just copy our key. And this is more generic Azure documentation. Okay. And depending on your Business Central version, get the connection string or instrumentation key. Well, we are using, oh, look at that. For BC, okay. For 2020 release wave 2 or earlier, copy the instrumentation key. For later versions, copy the connection string. Okay, now I don't know if this is different for on-prem versus SaaS, but okay, what is the connection string? Maybe that's the problem. Connection string. Copy, admin center, but this says Application Insights key. So who am I to believe? Okay. 2020 release wave 2 or earlier. Well, I'm on 18.0, which is, I thought 2021 release wave 1? Okay, let's just see what happens. This says enter the instrumentation key, but let's just see what happens. Save. Yeah, that's not valid. So yeah, it is just the instrumentation key. So I don't understand what this documentation is saying about later versions copy the connection string, because that's v17. Looks like there's an issue there. Okay, unless that's on-prem. So anyway, I don't get it. I don't think this has to do with Business Central. It's just something to do with my Application Insights. Now, what is interesting is, it's going to time out. Let's close this. Close this. When I go here, I have, let me just refresh this. Application Insights. Sometimes when I click, I was prompted to set something up and I bypass that. Now, it's not doing it now. So I'm not quite sure what is going on. And there could be something I'm missing. It's not mentioned in the documentation I found. Another thing that I clicked on, where is it? Live metrics. So if I click on live metrics, kind of another clue that something is very strange. It spins, and then it says data is temporarily inaccessible. It says temporary, and it's a big red error. And it says, I don't know if you can see that. It says click on AI status. And it takes me to Azure Monitor status. And it shows there were errors as of May 12th. So I thought it was due to this issue. But as far as I could tell, that is not the case. So I don't know what is going on. I don't know why I can't get Application Insights to do anything or behave. If anyone has any tips as to what I'm doing wrong, like it seems like it should be simple, but I, yeah. So let me just go home, BC App Insights. Select a metric. I'm just trying to see if I can get anything to work. Now, a lot of the default App Insights stuff is not applicable to Business Central. So, but events. Yeah. Anyway, if anyone has any thoughts, let me know. I thought it would be simple. I can't get anything to work. Let's see, one last time. Telemetry, yep. Nothing. Okay, and with that successful adventure, where are we? We conclude episode 50 of I Need Coffee. So give it a try. Let me know if you learn anything that I couldn't figure out here. And yeah, play with Business Central and have some fun. Have a good weekend.